What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. So today's video, we're going to go through some of the reaction to news in NFL free agency. If you'd like to comment on that, then comment below. If you'd like to hear about some other stuff as well, then or you just want to chat or something like that, just message me here as well, and I'm happy to respond to you. But my focus I want to talk about today is some of the NFL free agency stuff that's been going on. Biggest place to start, Tom Brady coming back from retirement. I did not expect that coming at all. I'm very curious to see if he's going to now be the new Brett Favre in a sense of where he's just going to say he's going to retire every year for the next couple of years and then just comes back, possibly switches to another team again. But that's neither here nor there. I think the big takeaway in terms of fantasy football, obviously, is for the Buccaneers. It definitely gives them a sense of security at the quarterback position. Looked like we were probably going to go to Kyle Trask potentially, or another backup like Jimmy Garoppolo they could have brought in for Tom Brady. But yeah, they're not going to be doing that. It's definitely great now that they do have a quarterback and they have some stability at the position now. So that's definitely great news for Mike Evans. Great news for some of the other secondary receivers as well, like Scotty Miller if he comes back, other guys along those lines. It appears Chris Godwin probably not going to play a huge role in terms of NFL free agency. Chris Godwin probably not going to play a huge role in this upcoming season, but it is very possible that he comes back and healthy by the end of the year. But I wouldn't spend a ton of draft capital on him at this point. Leonard Fournette appears he will likely be back. I think I see both sides definitely trying to make that work as best they can. And Leonard Fournette is definitely going to be a dangerous running back, especially now that he proved in 2021 that he could be a great receiving threat as well. That was a big question mark that I personally had with him. But it's great news to see that he's going to be coming back as well. But yeah, so we'll see kind of how this goes further. I honestly could potentially see a little bit of dip in Tom Brady's production just because you're talking a guy who's 45 years old. He spent about a month and a half away from football, and when you're at that age, it could be more difficult to come back sometimes. You take some time off, a little more difficult to get back to the game. But we'll see how this goes. This is definitely great news for the Buccaneers in terms of fantasy football, and really for the rest of the league in general to have Tom Brady back and playing again. Some other key news: Kirk Cousins coming back on a. He already had 1 year left on his deal previously. He's going to be retained for another season. I think this is good news for the Justin Jeffersons, the Adam Thielens, the top two receivers that you have there in Minnesota, because currently the way their system is constructed is that they rely heavily upon those two receivers. You saw a little bit of KJ Osborne here and there, but the news that Kirk Cousins is going to be staying a little more long-term is great news that this team is not going to be trying to experiment with a rookie quarterback yet at this time. And regardless of how Kirk Cousins is actually going to lead them to a championship or not, you do have some stability in knowing that those top two wide receivers are going to be locked in as Kirk Cousins' preferred targets. So that's great news for them as well. So we'll kind of talk some other key news that's coming in here as well. So for you that's in the chat, you're the one person that's watching this right now. Please comment and let me know how your day's going and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, so some other news that's coming out with regards to NFL free agency. Some bigger news about some of the signings just happened today. I think one of the biggest ones to me is the Arizona backfield. James Conner going to be returning to Arizona. A lot of people skeptical about James Conner coming in, and I admit I was one of them as well. Coming from Pittsburgh, where he looked like he just kind of capped out his potential in 2020 and was stuck in a committee, couldn't really stand out. But then he goes to Arizona and becomes their dependable running back and went to the Pro Bowl in 2021. So great resurgence for James Conner to be able to get back at it again. But on a 1-year deal last year, we weren't really sure if he was going to be back in Arizona or not. But they made their decision. They want James Conner, prioritized him over Chase Edmonds, who I'll talk about in a sec. But you got to love this move for people that own Conner in Dynasty, because now Conner is pretty much in a situation where he's got this backfield on lock, and there's not really going to be a ton of guys that are at least immediate threats to supplant him in that position. So this is great news for the everybody that's in the Arizona team and everything, that now that they got James Conner, they can lock it down. Hey, what's up, Fantasy Football Helper? Good to see you again on here. So yeah, I like the fact that James Conner is coming back there. I think he definitely brought some good production to their backfield, and I'm happy to see that he's back. Chase Edmonds is going to Miami. Miami is a team that needs a whole filled running back. Myles Gaskin was just not it for them. And it's kind of tough because I as much as I like Chase Edmonds as a player with potential and speed, I don't really see how he how much different he is from somebody like a Myles Gaskin. So it's kind of, to me, I'm not 100% sure if this is really going to move the needle for Miami. It definitely opens up opportunity for Chase Edmonds. They're giving him $6 million a year, is for 2 years is what they've got in his contract right now. So if he comes back, him being in Miami, it shows that they have confidence in him to give him some more reps at the position. I just don't know if he's really going to break out and be that guy, because he is a very similar player to Gaskin in that they're both kind of more PPR type of receivers. I would have liked to see them kind of get somebody that was more of that every down back to kind of stabilize some of those early downs, and then open up the field for more of these scat backs like Edmonds, Gaskin, etc. But again, this is a guy to look out for this upcoming season of redraft leagues, because he did not have a great 2021 campaign. A lot of that due to injuries, but he did have some productive games at times this season that really put Chase Edmonds in the picture for streaming options. So him going to Miami, this is a good potential for opportunity. I think that he's going to be late enough in drafts. I'm guessing that he's going to be around the 4th, 5th, 6th round range, that he could be a pretty good pickup. As kind of like a low flyer running back that you can take advantage of. But I think that Miami, I also would not be really that surprised either if they decide to go get another running back as well in the draft to kind of add to this committee that they have here. So that's something I would definitely keep an eye out as well in terms of what they're going to do. So other transactions that I want to talk about. So Jacksonville, very active, and they've made a lot of good moves on the offensive side of the ball that makes them interesting. So first of all, I think Doug Peterson as their coach is a great move for them. They need to get somebody that's got a winning culture in there, and he's a guy that's been to the Super Bowl and kind of got phased out in Philadelphia in a situation that I think wasn't necessarily his fault. I think you can blame some of that on Carson Wentz. You can blame some of that on the ownership. It was just kind of a very perfect storm situation that kind of caused them to fall apart. But one of the things that I do like about him going to Jacksonville is that there's not that level of expectation that you have on, in a Philadelphia market where they really don't. If you have a one losing season, then you can find yourself on the hot seat in a hurry. Jacksonville going to be more patient with him, and he's got Trevor Lawrence that he's going to have an opportunity to mold, make him hopefully the next hot quarterback commodity, like a lot of these young AFC quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Herbert, etc., that have all kind of taken off over the last handful of seasons. So they're hoping they could get that with Trevor Lawrence, and they've got a great coach, Doug Peterson. But the moves today are actually very good for their offense and Trevor Lawrence's development. I think the best move that they made is getting Brandon Sheriff from Washington. great offensive lineman. He's been a perennial line to help give Trevor Lawrence some protection, things in the running game as well. James Robinson, unfortunate injury to end last season. He's not going to be coming back. But Travis Etienne, this is great news that they were able to sign Sheriff for Etienne purposes, because he's a guy that, again, he's going to fly under the radar because he didn't play last year. We don't necessarily know what he's going to be like. And you've also got the whole, the hype factor for being new is kind of gone with him, because you're going to be looking at all these rookies. People are going to forget about Travis Etienne, but this is great news for him and his projection going forward. Also, they signed Christian Kirk. I am not 100% sure where Kirk will fall in this pecking order of wide receivers. I think he should be the number one wide receiver. You've got some guys there with potential, like you've got Chenault, who's kind of been up and down. You've got Marvin Jones, who started off very well last year, but then things kind of fell apart. DJ Chark still on their team as well. Remains to be seen kind of what they do with him, but they've got some wide receivers there. Christian Kirk, of the guys that they currently have in the room, should be the number one wide receiver. But again, it's going to really be up to this. And I think this is why Sheriff is more important than Kirk, is that you've got to have the stability on that offensive line, and more importantly, the stability with the coaching in order to get those receivers involved. Urban Meyer obviously wasn't able to do that. So hopefully Doug Peterson kind of turned that around. And then another minor move as well, which in theory could be a great signing, but I just hate the player. And I not hate him personally, but Evan Ingram is coming to Jacksonville as well. So the correlation that you can make in your head is that, Doug Peterson caused Zach Ertz to pop. So now they're going to do this with Evan Ingram as well. But I just tell you that this is the danger of Evan Ingram, is that people say this every year. It's like, oh, he's such a talented tight end. He's got all this potential. So I think that this is a situation where it's just going to drive up Evan Ingram's hype value. And yes, theoretically, he could take off in the system. And I think he honestly could be cheap enough that it would be worth taking a late round flyer on him. But my fear is that this is going to cause Evan Ingram hype to elevate for a player that really has not shown much of anything throughout his career playing with the Giants, which, you can make that argument too. Giants, not a great place to be, but I'm still very cautious about this move of Evan Ingram going there. And despite what we know about Doug Peterson's success with tight ends and Zach Ertz. So yeah, I tell you, I try to be honest with this stuff, because I think that when you have these free agency moves like that, you can kind of assume things from the past, and then that can cause you to be like, oh, this coach really likes tight ends. They might really like this tight end. And there is some truth to that, but sometimes it can also be overrated as well. So just wanted to forewarn you of that. Other news, Mitchell Trubisky signing with the Steelers. In terms of how this moves the needle for Pittsburgh offensively, I don't really think it does a lot. Trubisky is interesting, because a lot of people are everybody was really down on him last year and how he played with the Bears, and kind of like, that this guy's a bust. He failed in Chicago, etc. But the biggest thing to me is, and then a year later he sits behind Josh Allen, and then now everybody is like, oh, Mitch Trubisky is a great quarterback. He's going to be a real sleeper. It's just very polar opposite opinions to me within the span of the last 2 years. So I'm very surprised that people have flipped the switch on him as much as they have. Could this be a successful system? I think it could. Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, when they were in 2019, when Ben Roethlisberger was injured, they did enough serviceable things to get by as quarterback. And I think Mitchell Trubisky is definitely better than Mason Rudolph, and he's definitely better than Haskins. That's for sure. So this is an upgrade for them compared to those guys. I just don't know if I see. I think that as much potential as I would like to see in this thing really taking off with Mitchell Trubisky, I just don't see it that way. Deontay Johnson, I still really like for his PPR value. Chase Claypool scares me. Juju Smith-Schuster, an impending free agent. It kind of remains to be seen what happens with him as he's recovering from an ACL injury. Naji Harris, I mean, this is good for him. I mean, I think Naji Harris is one of those guys that regardless of systems, he's just so talented that he's going to get the volume to be a relevant fantasy running back. But he had some very up and down games as well. That was very PPR dependent. And if he wasn't getting the catches and short targets from Big Ben, then his value was really not great in terms of his actual yards gained rushing the ball. This team needs to fix the offensive line. That's the number one priority, but at least getting some more stability at that quarterback is helpful for Pittsburgh moving forward. Some other news as well. It's kind of some minor stuff here, but Braxton Barrios coming back to New York. Barrios was really interesting to me as somebody that if he goes to one of these teams like New England or just as some other examples, like let's say like some really competitive teams like the Bills, if they're going to be replacing Cole Beasley who's seeking a trade, or if he goes to Kansas City, they need another receiver, then this guy could really be huge sleeper value because he is a very good slot receiver. And really had some amazing games down the stretch to end this season. But coming back to New York could be good for him. I do really like him as a late round flyer. Somebody who's probably not going to get drafted or might be available in very deep leagues or off the waivers in the first week of the season is somebody that you can take a flyer on because he does seem to have some rapport with Zach Wilson so far. But I really would have liked it if he had gone somewhere else and then see if he could take advantage of just being on a better team. So, yeah, a little unfortunate there. I was kind of hoping he would go somewhere else personally. Other news as well. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to be coming back to Miami, or excuse me, he's going to be going to Miami. He's never there in the first place. He's bounced around on so many teams at this point. I'm kind of surprised he didn't try to get another starting job somewhere else. But at the same time, depending on how they feel about Tua, this could be a good opportunity for Bridgewater to kind of step in and maybe take advantage of this system, very similar to kind of what Ryan Tannehill did in Tennessee when Mariota was there. Remains to be seen, but I do think that it'd be better for them to just go with Tua than it would be with Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, that's kind of my takeaway with that so far. Other news as well. So let's get to Deshaun Watson. We talked about him a little bit here. I think that so I would personally really like to see him in a place like Carolina because I think that I there's a lot of talk between like Carolina and New Orleans, but I think that it would be a better situation for him to go to a team like Carolina if they don't have to give up Christian McCaffrey to get him because they've got some better weapons around that team. New Orleans has got some good weapons like Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, but my fear is that they're very priced out in terms of their ability to build pieces around them. And although New Orleans could be very good now, I just don't see the sustainability long-term potentially. So I would really like to see if Deshaun Watson could potentially get to Carolina. Overall, this is going to be something to really watch in terms of dominoes falling with quarterbacks, et cetera, because that's going to be huge. But my fear is that if he does come back, that it's going to be very difficult for him to replicate to the level of the success in Houston right off the bat. And he could be kind of reached for as a guy that's going to be, we're expecting to just go right back into, number one passer rating overall in the history of NFL like he had in this last season that he played. There's a lot that can change within the span of 1 year off. And especially with impending suspensions, I think this guy is a little dangerous to try to project at this time, and especially in a situation where you're trying to just assume that he's just going to go right back to what he did in his Houston days. So, yeah, other news. The Bengals have plussed up their lines. Ted Karras and Alex Kappa have signed there. I think this is kind of what we expected from Cincinnati, but getting some linemen to help increase the protection is good for their running game. Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is still a very underrated running back who will be great value in redraft leagues for this upcoming season. Also for the receiving game. Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, I think, is almost getting to the point where he could be overdrafted in some leagues. Really like T. Higgins as a potential flyer for next season, who's probably going to be a little more reasonably priced to get in redraft leagues, and then Tyler Boyd as well. So yeah, Cincinnati's still a lot of moves to make. We'll see what exactly they're going to do, but actually going out and getting the offensive linemen and using some of the cap space they have is very good for them. So yeah, these are the biggest news that came out. There's, I guess I'll talk briefly about Amari Cooper going to Cleveland. I kind of just view that as a very meh move personally. I don't really think Amari Cooper is. I have not been impressed with him, as I've talked about many times on this channel. He's very up and down, kind of all over the place. So I personally, as much as I'd like to hope that this is going to revive Baker Mayfield's career, I'm just very skeptical about it. So yeah, I think Amari Cooper, the good thing that he does have going for him in Cleveland is there really isn't a lot else around him, especially that they released Jarvis Landry. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones. You have Anthony Schwartz. Other than that, there's really – and then you got the whole tight end monstrosity, which I talked about a few videos ago. But it's just not a situation that's great for him. I think they're going to be spreading the ball around and, again, running the ball more often. So Amari Cooper, this is – I'm not a fan of this move for him personally in terms of his fantasy value moving forward. So, yeah. That's all I've got for this video. Please let me know what you would like to see for fantasy football as we lead up to this upcoming season. I think my buy-sell videos did pretty well this past season, but I kind of would like to try to improve some of the other aspects of the channel to make it a little more user-friendly to the players that are going to the owners that would be watching this, of ways that could help them. So let me know what your suggestions are in the comments section, and I'll try to see what I can do to get that implemented for this next season. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.